Okay, so next up we've got Terminator 3, The Rise of the Machines, from 2003. So it's kind of, in some ways, a similar plot to the previous movie. You've got two Terminators who are both sent back once again. One still with the mission to eliminate John Connor, but this female Terminator also has a side mission to kill other members of the future resistance, while our other beloved T-800 type machine, I don't know if it's T-800 or another slightly different model, but it's still Arnold Schwarzenegger. So he's there with the mission to protect John again, and well, there's a little more to what he's doing in the movie, but without spoiling too much of it, that's in a nutshell what he's doing there. The funny thing is, I actually saw this movie 3 times in the theaters. 3 times. Once, and not necessarily, I mean, I definitely enjoyed the movie, but usually when I see a movie 3 times in the cinemas, it's because I think it's like a 10 out of 10 type movie, or near thereabouts. It's not near a 10 out of 10 movie for me, but I think I was roughly about 18, maybe close to 19 years old. Actually, I might have even been 19 years old, actually. And I remember the first time I saw it, I was attending this one college in the city, and after classes were done, instead of going straight home, because I live very far away from any kind of theater growing up, so going to the theater was like a very special type treat to happen. And since I was just walking around in the city, I was like, okay, I saw Terminator 3's playing, I really like Terminator 2, I'm gonna go watch this. So I watched it by myself the first time and enjoyed it quite a bit. I thought the action was really good. There's some really good action scenes in the movie. Obviously it's not as good as the second movie, but I think people in general give this movie a little too much shit. I think it's pretty good. At the same time, one of my friends, he was in the city with me. I was like, hey, I saw Terminator 3. It was pretty good. You should go check it out. So we both went and watched it then. And then also at the same time, shortly after, I had started dating my now wife. And, I said the same to her. Hey, Terminator 3 is pretty good. You should see it. So we went and watched it. Yeah, so that's why I saw it 3 times. But yeah, like I said, I think the action in the movie is pretty good. There's some really good scenes, especially that one scene towards the beginning where they first, both the Terminators kind of run into John and they're having that chase through the city. I really like that scene. The story, I think, is still pretty decent. They expand on it a little bit or alter it now that things have changed. And I thought, what's her name? Christina Loken? I can't remember her first name. I thought I think this was her first movie, actually. Or if not, at least her first big movie. And I thought she did pretty well, all things considered. I mean, there was a lot of reservations people had about, a female Terminator. And there's some surprisingly gory moments, like that one scene where she just punches a guy through the stomach. There's some horror-type elements to her character and the movie in general, just like there were with the previous movies.
Yeah, so much like the other 2 movies which we've previously spoken about, I've never seen this one before. I didn't know. All I knew about it was, hey, it's the new one that nobody cares for. And it's the movie's fine. The problem for me is, I didn't think either of the first 2 movies were like amazing. I thought they were decent. I thought they were pretty good, but neither one blew me away. And this one, it had like other action sequences and it had like a decent story, but there's no oomph to it. Like, especially, I know you just mentioned that I like the sequence, but the chase through the city, it was decent at the beginning, but then it just kept going and going and going. I'm like, okay, like it lost some of its power. I mean, I liked seeing all that property destruction. It was sort of cool, but it just, And this is one, this is one of the things I think I mentioned for, I forget if it's the second or first movie, but some of these characters are, shooting at this female Terminator. The bullets are literally doing nothing. Just save the bullets for something that's actually useful. And I know it makes them think they're accomplishing something, but they're really not. And I don't know if there's going to be some giant bullet manufacturer once, Judgment Day happens, so they might have to conserve some of that. But I don't know, and that's a small thing, but I just think this movie sort of lacked the, I guess for lack of a better word, some of the magic of the first two movies. And that may be partially because it, came out in the early 2000s as opposed to the 80s. But the story was decent. I liked the idea of the, female robot coming back to assassinate some of the future leaders of the rebel movement. But it didn't take me for a ride nearly as much as the first two movies did. Which is to say the movie wasn't enjoyable. It definitely was at times, but it just wasn't as much an experience in my opinion.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, my I've only seen the first two Terminators once a piece, so I may be the it's a bit different than probably most people who have seen this one.
What did you think about? I mean, the one thing about the first two movies is, okay, when these guys, Terminators or whoever it is that comes back through time and they arrive naked, and there's always some, there's a scene showing, okay, how they go from being naked to getting some clothes, and it was always interesting in the first two movies. We got Harris, he's naked. He has to kind of break in. Well, he kind of steals some clothes from a bum, and then he breaks into like a sports store and gets some shoes or whatever. And then we've got Arnold, who just basically robs a bunch of punks on the street. And then we've got the bar scene in Terminator 2, and then we've also got another another bar scene in this one. What did you think about that scene?
No, admittedly, I did find that somewhat amusing. It was, I sort of like that disdain. He puts his sunglasses on. It just doesn't do it for him, so it just destroys him.
The Elton John sunglasses. Yeah.
I mean, I feel like it should have made a difference, but hey, maybe they were just a slightly different shade than what he was looking for. I know, it was pretty amusing though. I definitely enjoyed how the women were certainly into him when he was walking in there. So I am happy they got a piece of him. It's actually amazing to think that not long after that, actually same year, he was literally the governor of California. So it just sort of cracks me up, his big actor, also politician, just walking around. I'm not sure if he was actually nude, probably was, I have no idea. But walking around like that in the movie, it's a bit different than what you might be used to. But he did have a beautiful body.
Yeah, no. He was in impressive shape for a guy who was as old as he was. So.
How old was he when he did this?
Off the top of my head, I have a feeling he was well into his 50s.
Huh.
So I'm just going to have to look this up. But I mean, it's still impressive how good he looks now. I think he's in his 70s now, but...
I mean, I honestly... I know this movie is done, 20 years after... 10, 15 years after the last one. He didn't look significantly older, in my opinion. I mean, he still had enough gumption to go on and do all the stuff he did. Although, I do have to say one thing that maybe I didn't catch. When they go to the mortuary, the mausoleum for that weapon cache, I know he brings the guy out in the coffin and escapes with him. Did they also bring the weapons, or did they just, dump them? He only brought out one coffin. A gun.
Well, I didn't watch the movie recently, so I can't tell you exactly. I assume maybe he left some of the guns in there. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, again, that's one of the small things that, as I was watching it. Oh, actually, I'm sorry, that reminds me of one other thing I wanted to bring up. If I'm not mistaken, and I was going to look this up, but I can't really type and talk at the same time. One of the characters who appears during the whole scene is the doctor who appeared in the previous movie.
The previous 2 movies, yeah.
Yeah, so I thought that scene, I don't know, it felt like it was like thrown in just for like comedy. Like, he starts talking to her about, hey, how do you get through this? And he's like, obviously talking more about himself, and Marvel pops up again, and it just, I mean, I sort of get why they did it, but I'm not sure if it was, I'm not sure if it was necessary.
Yeah, I mean, they didn't necessarily need to have it, but I think some people just appreciated having someone, another person from the previous 2 movies also showing up in this one.
Well, I'll just say I did like the uprising of machines toward the end. There was some good stuff, though. And in Before the Hate, I have to admit I sort of like the way iRobot did it, but the Will Smith movie than this one. But both movies are okay.
I hope someone punches you.
Yeah, I know. if you're lucky, maybe sometime at work tomorrow, some guy might do that.
Yeah. Okay, so yeah, I still enjoy this movie. I still think the first 3 movies are the best 3 movies of all the Terminator movies to date. Number 2 is the best. If I had to choose between 1 and 3, I'd probably go with 1, but I still enjoy 3 enough to... Like, I enjoy it almost to the same level as part 1, I think. Yeah, it's still got a lot of good action in the movie. I think the story, they don't do too much damage to what James Cameron did with the previous movies in terms of the story. It was surprisingly fun enough for me. It's even more comical, I think, than either the previous 2 movies, which may get to a point where, maybe it's a little too comical for some people who enjoy it on the most serious level, but I had enough fun with this one. I give it an 8 out of 10.
Yeah, so this probably what might sound like me going on about how this movie wasn't that great. It's still an okay movie, it's an enjoyable movie. It just didn't pack the same punch as the other 2. So I'm just going to simply give this one an average rating of a 7 out of 10.
That's pretty good. I must say, hey, I appreciate that the Terminator realized it needed bigger titties, and then...
I like throwing in some fan service, only giving this toy explanation for it. Some classy stuff.